Hello everyone, welcome to the Teaching and Learning Induction video for Prince Henry's. My name is Judith Nelson and I'm Associate Head Teacher here, and I've been here for, well, this is my 8th year I'm going into. Lovely school to work for. I hope you really enjoy being with us, and I hope my induction video gives you a bit of clarity about what we expect and the high standards we have for teaching and learning here. Okay, so the first slide I want to show you is the school vision, which you'll have seen probably previously and also on our website. And just to reiterate really why it's so important that you are clear on our minimum expectations for teaching and learning in school. We really want to develop our students as independent learners who are resilient and who basically have the skills to help them access the knowledge that they need for a much broader educational experience. And we're not an exam factory by any means, and we really pride ourselves on the quality of what we offer our students here. Okay, you will receive a hard copy of this teaching and learning handbook when you arrive at Prince Henry's on Monday the 7th. But as you can see, there's a lot of documentation in here. Some of which I'll go through now, and it has been amended because of the current COVID-19 situation to try and reflect the difficulties that teachers and students are having. Okay, so this slide is the minimum expectations that we have in school, and I'm going to go through each bit in more detail. So the first section is the lesson intent, what we want your lesson to be about. Secondly, obviously we want to have challenge for all. You'll have SEN students within there and also students who are very able within your classes. So it's about being prepared to cope for all of those students. Then we've got the implementation about how do you assess learning. I'll go into more detail about that. Marking and feedback, we have quite clear guidelines for those, and like I say, they have been amended slightly, and hence the highlighted section. And then finally, the classroom climate, which is about the sort of environment for learning. And again, we've had to reconsider what we do in the classroom in order to meet our risk assessment guidelines. So the first slide, as I mentioned, is on lesson intent, and every lesson that you deliver will have to have a what and a why. Your subject areas and faculties will have been working on this diligently really for the past few years, and as you can see, the what has to be very clear, and you have to articulate that to the students about what they're going to be learning, what you want them to learn, what you want them to understand, and then most importantly why they're doing that, how it fits into the schema of work. I don't want to sort of hear that it's because they're going to be doing an exam in it. Not at all. This is about fitting into the wider context of what they're learning. Okay, the curriculum and implementation. How do you actually implement what's been planned, and to make sure, as it says, that you fit it into the sequence of learning? So we really want you to think carefully about this, and actually I've attached another document which I'd like you to read about how we have amended what we expect, especially for the first few weeks back for students after such a long absence from school. Thinking very carefully about how students can recall what they already know as opposed to teaching new content. And as it says, we also expect you to build in assessment for, of and as learning. And if you have a look, you'll notice that of learning is the summative form of assessment, which we do at the end of units or the end of a task, whereas for learning is what you do in the classroom more regularly, checking the understanding of those students, be through a low stake testing, which is what we call it, through Kahoot, Quizlet, however you want to do it. Okay, and then equally we like to ensure that the quality of home learning, notice we don't say homework, complements what you do in the classroom, and that's built into what you plan to teach. Marking and feedback, we call it the making feedback matter policy, and here we expect there to be a level of basic marking where you do look for misconceptions, literacy errors, for example, and you use a capital T on the students' work to identify where they've made an error. But in addition to this, once every 6 weeks, usually more if you teach them more often than once or twice a week, we expect a challenge task, and I'll explain that a little bit later. We have, however, as you can see, highlighted that there is an addendum to this policy, and whilst those expectations haven't changed about the level of marking, the way in which you mark has, and that's because we don't expect you to have to take exercise books home in the same way, because quarantine rules do exist. So if you are able to use Shobi or Microsoft Teams, etc., we've been working on that quite significantly since we've been off and before in some subjects, to try and have that sort of dialogue between students in an electronic way. More to come on that. Okay. So classroom climate, again, another document that I'd like you to read, which all staff have been given, is about how to set up your lesson, how to ensure COVID restrictions are in place within your classroom. The bits underneath that really are about good teaching and making sure that you make the most of the time that you have with the students in that lesson, looking at the presentation of work, making sure you use teaching assistants effectively, there's enough pace in the lesson, and again, that you assess their understanding of the work that you've done. Just on a final note, following on from this year where we have been using technology a lot more, we are an iPad school, we expect you to use iPads with the students where appropriate. We would like to spend time developing the use of technology to enhance teaching and learning, particularly in the form of assessment, over the following year, a whole school objective which has been continued over from last year. So that's something to bear in mind about your own development through this time. Sorry. And then just finally, just a few last points really to help you appreciate what else we do within the school for teaching and learning. There's lots of allocated faculty teaching and learning time to develop what you're doing, working collaboratively. Whole school twilights will be used to develop your skills, as well as optional twilights which you can sign up for. And we also have a group of teachers who are very much about teaching and using technology for leading learning, and they will help the whole staff body develop those skills. We're also wanting to develop students as digital leaders, and also using Apple iBooks to train ourselves as and when we can. Okay, so really that's where it ends for now. I appreciate that's all very quick. I hope that you get a chance to ask your colleagues any questions that you have, and even me on the induction day if there are any questions from this presentation. I realise it's quick. I hope the handbook gives you more clarity, and I look forward to meeting you all very soon. Best wishes.